the Wednesday edition of lcpioneers.com Live, presented by PioStream. We are on Facebook Live and archived at youtube.com/lcpios 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday at 11:30 in the morning Pacific time. We appreciate you joining us, keeping you connected with student athletes, coaches, alumni, and members from throughout the Lewis and Clark College community. Again, Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. Hi, everyone. I am Ryan Goff. I am the play by play voice and director of athletic communications for Lewis and Clark. We are the Pioneers. Out of Portland, Oregon, and a member of the Northwest Conference, competing against other institutions from throughout Northwest Oregon and the state of Washington, and part of the NCAA Division III level, and therefore opportunities to compete on a nationwide scale. Over 430 institutions in the NCAA Division III world. We are excited to keep you connected with our student athletes and alumni. And today we'll bring in a coach. We'll talk to Pioneers Golf head coach James Yen, entering his fourth season at the helm of the Pioneers Golf programs. We'll get his look and glimpse into the philosophy, the team culture that he's built with this golf program. And in the first two seasons alone, he had a Northwest Conference Freshman of the Year in Cameron Ford, and also our final spring coach to have in to talk about the coronavirus pandemic, opportunity for him to recognize his senior from the programs, and just what has been obviously an odd last 3 months with learning going remote, commencement going virtual, and now even recruiting still in a virtual state for the most part as well. We'll bring James in just a little bit. Invite you to get connected with the show, please, in our Facebook comments below. You can also email us either for questions for our guests or even suggestions for future guests, sports@lclark.edu. And you can find us on our other social media platforms as well, Twitter and Instagram at LC Pioneers. Our YouTube playlist is still getting built out, as every show that we have, your opportunity to go back and watch on demand at youtube.com/lcpios. And it's been great too. We already had kind of a golf heavy start to this week with Coach Yen coming on today, but Ben Welker was on yesterday, uh, rising senior for the golf program. Had a great conversation about education, why it's important for him to go into the world of education like his mother did, and some of the benefits he's had being a member of this golf program. You can find all of our shows dating back to the last day of March at youtube.com/lcpios. Also, big recognition and shout out to graduated senior Sean Richardson from the cross country and track and field programs. Big accomplishment as he becomes the first Pioneer student athlete since 2002 to earn academic All-America recognition. That's part of the COSIDA program, where he made the All-America third team and one of three from the NCAA's West region in cross country to get that recognition, as he was a national qualifier. Former Dell Smith Scholar Athlete of the Year on a men's team, recognized in the 2019 LC's ceremony, and a lot of other things that he's gone on to do. I mean, he received a book award, and he received recognition from the Rogers program, the science program, and just an all-around impactful guy. So congratulations to Sean Richardson, the fourth fastest all-time ever at Lewis and Clark, for earning academic All-America recognition. You can read more about that at lcpioneers.com. And so with that said, let's bring in our guest for today. Again, entering his fourth year at the helm of the Lewis and Clark golf programs, we have a chance to bring in James Yen onto our show, lcpioneers.com Live. Hi, Coach Yen. Appreciate taking the time to join us on this Wednesday show. And like I said, a golf-heavy start to our week, which is always a lot of fun. Curious to kind of give us a glimpse into how you became the head golf coach for Lewis and Clark, now entering your fourth year.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan, for having me on. It's awesome to kind of say what I can and view my opinions and kind of bolster our program out a little bit. But yeah, so I got lucky 4 years ago. The AD at the time, Shayna Levine, had to fill a void. Our previous head coach, Dave Andrews, retired. And so he left the program, and Sheena was left to fill that spot. And it so happened that we were having our golf tournament, our annual golf tournament for a fundraiser for our program, our athletic department, and I was paired up with Shayna and her husband and another golfing alum that's a nice alumni for our program and for our school. And I basically fixed her swing in in about 10 holes, and she started hitting fairways and greens, and so she saw kind of the potential in that regard. I've been always an avid golfer, uh, not the best, not the worst, but I can get it from tee to green in a fair low number. But I fixed her swing, and the opportunity came around a couple months later, and she had me in mind, and kind of egged me on to put my name in the pot. She knew how I was with the football program. I at the time I was the assistant wide receiver coach for the football team, and she knew how well I worked with the kids and my rapport with the kids, and as a mentor, and so it was kind of an opportunity that didn't come around in her opinion, and she offered that to me. It took me a while though. It took me a while to kind of, when I say a while, it took me about a whole summer, a couple months, to really kind of put my name in the pot, see if I really wanted to do this. It was, it's an unknown, right? I never coached golf before. I always loved it, but I love coaching and mentoring young kids, um, and young adults, and so I took upon myself to create a new challenge, and so I took the job, and no regrets from that. Definitely enjoy uh, any sport atmosphere that's out there, and golf is definitely on top of that list, along with football and some other sports. But I thoroughly have enjoyed my couple of years being the head coach for the Lewis and Clark Pioneers.
Well, and you
So
saw some immediate results too. I mean, we talked about in that second season, as in your part of your introduction, Cameron Ford named Northwest Conference Freshman of the Year,
yeah,
women's golf named Team of the Year at the LCs. Tori
yeah,
Eichten was the Scholar Athlete of the Year on the women's side. Uh,
awesome.
what do you attribute to some of that initial success that your teams have had?
Uh, yeah, I will give some credit to Dave a little bit because Tori was Dave's recruit. But the kids that I got now, they're all kids that I recruited, and we had when I came in, we didn't miss a beat on the girls' side. The girls were top three in the conference. I mean, we had some powers, long hitters, accurate golfers, really really smart players. Tori was one of them. I'm looking for some really, really exciting things for her in the future. But it was a blessing to get those kids on staff and kind of get my feet wet when I got into that program, but also kind of figured out, all right, what does this program need? What should I go out and recruit? Who should I go out and recruit? It was a kind of a let's jump in, but let's take a step back, right? Let's jump in, let's see what's it about, but also don't move too hastily. Um, make some moves based on what the program's about and what the kids want to see with this program. I talked to some alumni, and I also hired some alumni as my assistant coaches that gave me some insight about what they wanted, what they were missing, what they think they could gain from this program going forward. And I took that to heart and tried to add that in my recruiting tactic. And Cameron and some just a sophomore class right now, that freshman sophomore class, and I got two juniors that will be seniors next year, but have been awesome with creating the culture. Cameron Ford came on strong, very strong. I think the conference knew she was a force to be reckoned with, and she wasn't the best on her high school team. She was really, really good, but that's the stuff that I really look for is the competition and if you were put in that position in high school, you could thrive anywhere, right? And so she definitely liked Lewis and Clark. She's an Oregon girl, and she came up here to be a part of our program, and she's added to that piece very, very well. Along with other people in her class, Matt Seamer, Grant Shimizu, Olivia Wheeler, they all been great with bringing a new standard to this program. And I kind of give them the green light to kind of create that culture because it's their program. It's also I can control some of it, but they're living through it. They're going through it. They're playing rounds with the LC on their chest, and so it's a two-way street for me. And if I can recruit some kids that definitely believe that and definitely enjoy as as much as I enjoy golf, it's going to be fun, and it's going to be entertaining, and it's going to be enlightening, and it's going to be a great avenue to grow. So
He's James Yen joining us on lcpioneers.com live, head coach of the Pioneers golf programs. Let's elaborate on a couple of those things in just a moment, but one thing I do want to have a chance for you to talk to is the spring sports season that we had this past year, cut short by the coronavirus pandemic. Curious, with one graduating senior in Annika Klunk, kind of how that went through the eyes of your golf program and you as a golf coach from the moment you found out the seasons were getting canceled to kind of where we are now, a month into the summer.
yeah, um, uh, I'll be quite frank with you. I'm a nerd at heart. I love science. I graduated with an applied physics degree, jumped into the land development business. So I love all that. I love numbers and whatnot. And I saw it early on. I saw kind of what was going on in China, and kind of got the team kind of prepared for what could happen. And that was just through talks, right? And February coming around, us starting up practice, us going to our first tournament out in Quail. Uh, it was all right. We're back at it. This is our spring season, but there was definitely a question mark in the air. And we have very, very smart kids at Lewis and Clark who are very critical thinkers. And all these questions came up. What can we control? What can't we control? What are we going to do? All the unknowns. And I got the team kind of prepared, like, hey, this could happen. Let's just be careful, right? And put some scenarios in their head and got them thinking a little bit. But when that time came where we had to drop everything and go home, it definitely hit home for a lot of our kids, and especially our golf program, because we were in the middle of the season, and especially for our senior. I felt for Annika, I felt for all the seniors. It's just not it's not the way to go out, and not the way to spend your last semester. But again, the stuff that we can control, let's control it. But stuff that we can't control, it's out of our hands, and we have to move on. Um, I was super excited to see what this team can do this spring. We tend to hold this spring as a higher standard than the fall. We tend to think of spring as our season, the fall being a preseason, the spring being the season, and so we were looking forward to it. We had some goals, we had some lofty goals. The youngins, our sophomore class, our freshman class, came up with some really good goals with Amka. Basically solidifying that, saying, "Hey, yes, this is definitely doable this year." Um, and we didn't have a chance to accomplish that, and that was heartbreaking. Just being away from each other was heartbreaking, because I create a team that's based on family, right? That's based on culture. That's based on um, depending on each other to move on, depending on one another to get through the course, or to have a good time, to put a smile on your face, to talk about the problems that we're having. I depend on this team to kind of lean on each other, and I try to create an atmosphere around that. And that's being vulnerable, right? And that's a big thing that we've been trying to do this year, is just being vulnerable amongst each other, right? There's always going to be some hiccups amongst the family, and we got to talk through those things. And this was one of them, right? This was a big speed bump that we had to go through. Everyone was frustrated. I was frustrated. Our Annika was very frustrated. She had to go home to a house that was in renovation, because mom and dad didn't think she was going to be home. So things like that will set you off, right? And so I definitely felt for her, and it's still going on. She didn't have a senior year. She didn't have a graduation party, right? And that's all the seniors. And so, how do we move forward for that? I think we honor those seniors, and we make sure that they were a critical part of our program, and they still are. I tend to reach out to alumni, especially the ones that just graduated and are graduating right now, to keep them part of this family. We're connected in some way, and that's the Lewis and Clark Pioneer logo that we have right now. Is that we're in this family, and once you graduate, you're still in this family. I'm still going to call you. I'm still going to check up on you and whatnot, and that's the part that I'm going to miss the most, right, is the camaraderie. I mean, the last 3 months have been isolated. And we pride ourselves, especially our team, on being together. We enjoy ourselves together, whether we're shooting 120 or we're shooting 58, right? We enjoy ourselves together. Just the stories that we have, and that's what I'm trying to create. And when I go out on the recruiting trail, I'm looking for those individuals that can bring that to the table, right? And also bring a lot of other things to the table, and which is the golf game, which is being smart. You have to have a really good brain on your shoulders to make it through Lewis and Clark, because those professors are going to kick your butt in the classroom, which they should. Um, and so, but also being coming from the islands, being born and raised in Hawaii, I pride on myself on diversity. Uh, Coming here to the mainland, I graduated from school in our conference, went there for 4 years, and ended up staying here on the West Coast. And so um, I enjoy going out and recruiting diverse individuals to make up our team, because that brings so much character to this team, and to what I'm trying to create. And so you look at our team, we got some white people, we got some Asians, we got some black people. We got them all the way around the board. We got the far left, we got the far right, we got up and down. We got them all, and I pride myself on that, and that's on my control. Um, and but you have to bring that to the table on and off the course, right? And that's just not a one. You don't do that once in a while. You do it all the time. And so, good habits come a long way. And I try to recruit kids that have those good habits, that have good character, that are going to go out and treat people um, like who they are, individuals. And so, I definitely pride myself on that. Coming from Hawaii, you're going to look at anyone coming from Hawaii, they're very prideful with that, because we grew up in that. We grew up in a mixed place, basically. And so I try to do that. I'm trying to do that with the golf team. So coming from the football background, I see it all in that sport. It's all around that sport. Just the diversity, the camaraderie, the family, that you have to come together to be as one. It's all there, and it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So
James Yen joining us on lcpioneers.com live, head golf coach for Lewis and Clark. You can find our past shows, youtube.com/lcpios. We have interviewed several members of the golf programs, including Annika Klunk, talking about this spring shortened season and her experience and what's ahead for her. You talked about re-engaging the alumni, and I know that one thing I admire about your program is you bring in a coaching staff, as you referenced earlier, with recent alumni, but also just a culture that allows for all of your coaches to really have an impact in the way that your student athletes are developed. Describe the coaching staff from a head coaching perspective, and tell give us a glimpse into some of these individuals.
yeah, I kind of live by the saying, you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. And I have the ability to kind of choose that. And my assistant coaches are the world right now to this program. Um, I'm going to name them from basically, I got three of them. Aaron Benedetti is my assistant coach. He's my professional instructor. He's our PGA guy. He's been a PGA pro for, I can't tell you how many years, but a long time. Um, and he's not a Lewis and Clark alum, but he fits the mold to the T. Uh, Caring, loving, respectful, smart, um, family oriented. He brings his son almost to all the engagements that we have, and so that's something that I thoroughly enjoy. But on top of that, I also brought in two alumni, Drew Groshon and Jacob Bell, both recent graduates of Lewis and Clark, and both recent players for Lewis and Clark. Drew right now is, bless his heart, is a medical student at OSHU, and is going into his second year, and I think as we speak. But he comes on and brings an intelligent, analytical side to the game of golf. Drew, now, if you don't know, was the only Northwest Conference champion, I believe, from Lewis and Clark on the men's side. He definitely controlled a lot of tournaments out there. Definitely demanded a lot of respect out there from not only players but coaches as well, just because of what he brought to the table. Having him on board was it's night and day for me. It's really it's just he comes in and he basically, all right, this is what I did. This is what you're going to go through. These are what the courses are going to look like. This is how I approached it. So I have someone that's been there, done that, that I can lean on. It was just super, super helpful. And I do lean on him a lot with that regard. Is all right, buddy. Let's talk about how we can get this team ready for, Michael Book, or how can we get this team ready for Pumpkin Ridge? Let's take steps, and he brings some really, really critical ideas. He brings some analytical thinking that probably my mind or my other coaches haven't thought of. But perspective, he brings some perspective. I really, really appreciate that. And so he brings that dynamic. And then I've also brought in Jacob Bell, who I depended on a bunch when I first started coaching because he was an upperclassman at the time. Political science major. He's working right now in Portland. He's from Kansas City. He brings the perspective of not being from the West, but ended up being here and loving Portland, loving the college, loving what the area has brought to him, and what he's gained from that. And he stayed around this area and is working in this area. And I'm going to lean on him just because he's a great asset. He was a great asset when I was a first year coach. He came in. We had many, many discussions. I mean, we had many, many conversations about what he thinks the team should be, what the team thinks the team should be, what the goals should be. All those little things help create the culture that we're in right now. And I got to give as much credit as you are giving to me to them for creating a culture, for helping me basically support the support that I needed to move on to the challenge that I put myself into. And without them, I don't think we would have gone as smoothly and as creatively as we have right now. I mean, it's I think this program has flipped 180 from when they were, and the smiles are popping up. The conversations are long lasting, and that's what I hope to create, and hope to create some good memories with the golf game and outside the golf course. And these guys definitely provide that atmosphere for that, and I can't thank them enough.
Well, and I certainly appreciate you walking us through, philosophically some of the intentionality behind your program and that culture you developed through having a diverse roster, through having a mix of personalities. I mean, I can tell you that there's lots of members of your golf program that you have a chance to learn something from every day on our campus. And we've had several of the current athletes on the show and some of your past student athletes, which we've linked in some of the chat as well. James Yen, thank you so much for taking some time, giving us insight into the golf programs, and look forward to having you back on campus as soon as humanly possible.
I hope so too, Ryan. Crossing my fingers, my man. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thanks, James Yen, head coach of the Pioneers Golf Programs. Outstanding personality and someone who just gets you going. I mean, I was telling him, my favorite part about having him on the show is no matter the words that are coming out of his mouth, he's one of those guys that kind of gets you energized. And I think that, it impacts his student athletes for sure. We linked to the one episode in the Facebook comments with Jacob Bell, as I mentioned, several of the current student athletes, and with Annika Klunk, a recently graduate student athlete that's been on the program. You can find the full playlist of our past shows at youtube.com/lcpio. So big thanks to James, and kind of reaching the middle point of our week. Tomorrow, we'll have a conversation with rising senior for Pioneers football and track and field, Aiden Verba Hamilton. We'll talk about systemic racism and specifically how education plays a part in creating that system and perpetrating it, keeping it going. He's going to have some insight from his lived experiences and certain things that he feels like can change to end that systemic racism. Uh, an issue that's at the forefront in the last month or so for for many more people. It's something that we don't want to have stop being at the forefront. And so specifically trying to have these kind of conversations in on this show as a platform for our student athletes of color, our Black student athletes, have a chance to talk to us about that. One of our hopefully many future episodes in that regard. Aiden also is someone who I've heard so many great things about in terms of his music and his pursuits in that realm. And one thing that I know he'll talk about is just giving his all, no matter what area of his life he's working on, whether it's athletics or music. And so excited to talk to him about his philosophies there. And then we'll introduce you possibly for the first time to Valerie White, who's the ombuds person at Lewis and Clark. Hopefully, many more of you have already had a chance to interact with Valerie, but her office provides a really invaluable service to the Lewis and Clark College community, where an opportunity to talk to a neutral member, whether you're having conflict inside the Lewis and Clark community, whether you're student, staff, or faculty. She's really an insightful person, and excited to have you have a chance to have a conversation with her on Friday. So that's our show lineup for the next 2 days. You can watch all of our past shows at youtube.com/lcpios. May not have any new shows next week. We're still working on our lineup, but of course, if we are not on next week, we will definitely have shows starting the week after that as well. So big thanks to James Yen for joining us. Big thanks to you as well on Facebook Live. You can watch our past shows, youtube.com/lcpios. And until tomorrow with Aiden Verba Hamilton, I'm Ryan Goff. Thanks for having fun with us. We'll talk to you again soon for more lcpioneers.com Live, presented by PioStream on Facebook Live and archived at youtube.com/lcpios. Goodbye, everybody.
My favorite spot on campus is like right outside the Dovecote, little benches, and there's flowers growing there, and you can get a little coffee at the Dovecote and sit there.
My favorite spot on campus is definitely the weight room. I get that everybody loves like the gardens or the manor house, but our facilities for athletics here are actually amazing too, and the weight room is definitely my favorite spot.
My favorite spot on campus would either be the glade outside of the athletic facilities or South Campus.
What is my favorite spot on campus? I really like the back porch of the manor house. It looks out on Mount Hood, and on a clear day, it's super beautiful just to sit around with friends.
I'm Ann Bentley. I'm an associate professor of chemistry, and in this research group, I supervise the 2 students working in the Rogers program this summer in our lab. The brown bag experience is a good chance for students to get experience presenting their work that they've done in the lab, especially to an audience that's not technical.
What's intriguing about the brown bag experience is it incorporates all of the Rogers program. So I'm able to hear people in the psychology department and what research they're doing, but it also gives us the opportunity to share our research with the greater science community at Lewis and Clark. And for incoming students, the summer program is really beneficial for getting opportunity in research. So I've had the opportunity for research in the past, but other students may not have the same opportunities. So it's nice to work in a professional lab setting and potentially have the opportunity to publish a paper, which looks really good moving on into doing professional research out in the field.
The students grow a lot during the summer in their ability to learn the techniques and apply the techniques and suggest their own ideas for what could come next and interpret their data. It's just a big, usually if they haven't done research before, they learn a lot in that short period of time.